meet with his Russian counterpart, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, on Thursday this week. So at that meeting, they're going to work out details on the substance of this summit, and then we'll find out more after that. We also know that after the summit between the two presidents, there would then be an additional summit, a second meeting with relevant stakeholders. Presumably that would include Ukrainian President Zelensky, as well as other European leaders.
Bruce, it is quite interesting that the White House says that the summit will happen in principle, that President Biden has agreed in principle. How do you read that?
Well, they have said repeatedly that if there were Russian military incursions into Ukraine in the coming days, that would mean that the window for diplomacy has closed. So the United States is reiterating that this summit is conditional, that there would not be.
Hold is being overweight on India. Do you think the sell-off has been overdone and there's now opportunity to get back in?
We think so. In fact, we think that the Indian market, despite being overvalued, being at a premium valuation compared to the Asian peers, is actually growth supported. If one looks at the consensus earnings growth
in that sense on the geopolitical front.
Well, it's a constant worry, obviously, but the oil industry and the shipping industry deals with this on a fairly regular basis. Whether it's the Red Sea, whether it's the East African coast, the piracy. So insurance companies are used to managing these kinds of risks, and certainly our insurance and the way we would come if there was something more serious in terms of conflict. Do you have any sense of how much sort of geopolitical premium there is in the oil price? From what we've discussed, supply and demand dynamics would suggest that oil prices stay elevated even without that geopolitical risk premium. What would you assume would come out if we see these tensions ebb away? Well, the market's probably got a number of factors factored into
just talked about, because we think that Korean tech hardware universe is clearly benefiting from the chip prices, the DRAM prices increasing, and that the demand in that particular segment is likely to remain for now. The Korean banks, which is the second most important sector over there, they're benefiting because of expectations of net interest margins increasing. The bank's guidance about their lending growth, that has also been quite satisfactory. In fact, quite a positive surprise compared to, the previous years. So these are the two large pockets that we are present in Korea as far as our Asian model portfolio is concerned. And, I think that chance will continue for now.
The most contrarian view you say that you hold is being overweight on India. Do you think the sell-off has been overdone and there's now opportunity to get back in?
We think so. In fact, we think that the Indian market, despite being overvalued, being at a premium valuation compared to the Asian peers, is actually growth supported. If one looks at the consensus earnings growth estimates in 2022 and 2023, that's significantly, handsomely higher than the Asian peers.
Domination. So, Minister, first of all, when you look at some of the pension reforms, what are we actually expecting from that? I mean, this is one of the hardest things to do in France. Will it get done if President Macron stays on?
It will get done, and I'm totally convinced that it will get done early in the mandate, because it must be a starting point for a new improvement of the economic situation in France. We need to have more people on the labour market. We need to have more growth to face the climate change and to have a sustainable growth. And I think that a large majority of French people are fully aware of the necessity of a pension reform.
If you look at the pension reform and the difficulties with that, I know Mr. Macron also promised to get rid of 120,000 public employees. That was extremely hard. Why was that so hard?
I think it's always hard when you are explaining that you must get rid of employees, either public or private. And I think that we need to change our approach. The idea is not to getting rid of public people. The idea is to be more efficient and less costly that or political war.
If you want more stability on the budget, does it mean that tax cuts are off the table?
No, we need more tax cuts. We need more tax cuts for the private companies and especially for the industry. If you want to have a strong industry, you cannot have a level of tax production taxes that is